Welcome to Legal Keys, unlocking time, revenue, and results. The podcast that connects you with the people, technologies, and trending topics shaping the modern legal landscape. From cutting-edge AI innovations to high-growth marketing strategies and everything in between. Legal Keys is your go-to resource for actionable insights. Brought to you by Faster Outcomes and hosted by Tim Sawyer, two-time Inc. 500 co-founder entrepreneur. We're here to help you navigate the tools and trends driving success in today's legal world.
Hello and welcome to Legal Keys, brought to you by Faster Outcomes, the ultimate AI-powered legal and healthcare intelligence platform for lawyers and healthcare providers of all shapes and sizes. So excited to be here, episode 20. This will be the most epic episode, as I announce every time we do an episode. We've got a great guest here. If this is your first time joining us, again, you picked the right time. If you've been following us, we certainly appreciate your loyalty and continue to like and share as we go. So thank you very much and great to see everybody. First, I want to introduce today's guest is Joe Ruotolo. Am I saying that right? Ruotolo.
Yes, you got it, Tim.
Very familiar name. Many of you have probably seen him traveling the country, speaking and giving advice, great advice to lawyers and law firms of all shapes and sizes. He is the head of marketing of a really cool company called Intaker, a legal tech company focused on automating growth for law firms. Joe brings a unique blend of STEM education. I'm really looking forward to talking about that. STEM education, empathy, and technology to the legal industry. He has worked closely with hundreds of law firm owners to uncover and fix gaps in their intake and communication workflows, helping firms increase qualified lead conversion. Everybody wants to know more about that, Joe, I can promise you. Build predictable growth and improve overall productivity. He's deeply committed to advancing the legal profession through innovative intake and marketing technology with a focus on optimizing firm operations and delivering exceptional value to our clients, which we hope to bring to you today. Joe, welcome to Legal Keys.
Oh, Tim, thank you for having me. I'm glad we got to meet at the conference a few weeks ago, Great Legal Marketing. And,
Cool.
just since then, going to learn about you and your community and what you're doing at Faster Outcomes. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
So right out of the gate, I got to tell you something funny. We spent 2 days at a conference hyped about understanding a lot about the latest technology. And you know what my big takeaway was from Great Legal Marketing? I should start doing direct mail.
You're not alone. You're not alone. And we'll have a lot of time to talk about all the, crazy things that are changing the world of technology, but there's just something about having something physical in your hands that someone thought about you and sent you in the mail that technology can't really replace that feeling.
Yeah, and Kia, if you remember Kia, she got up and spoke intelligence. So we've had her on the podcast, and we talked a lot about direct mail and how that's changed. So I look forward to connecting with her on that. But let's talk about you. So what is it exactly that you do? I know it says head of marketing. I'm sure you wear a million hats. What is it exactly that you do day to day at Intaker?
Yeah, good question. So I actually got my start at Intaker in sales. And, in the company in the early days, it was me, one of the co-founders in a little office. We can get to that story. But, between starting in sales, growing a partnerships channel, and then moving into marketing as a way to, spread just awareness of not just what we're doing, but the problems that a lot of law firms face, mostly in intake, but also in other categories that we'll get to. Usually, between my responsibilities here, it's driving demand generation, whether that's with organic campaigns or paid media campaigns, and also in the event space, because it's something we just wrapped up an event that we do a few times a year called Product Lab Day. That's kind of our showcase, the way that a tech company like Apple has WWDC, Worldwide Developer Conference. Intaker, we do the Product Lab Day. And so that is a
cool
great
concept.
place for both, people already in the Intaker ecosystem, but those who are maybe on the outside and looking in, wondering, what is this all about? It's where we go into all the latest tech that we release, but also use it as a teaching opportunity. Because Tim, I know that you also, teaching is like a core value, something that you do wherever you are, it seems. And so using these virtual events as a way not just to, showcase a product, but really give people an understanding of the world of intake and what intake means
Yep.
beyond what is on the surface, right? It's really something deeper. It gets into psychology, emotions, and how we can build technology to really support that evolution of when someone first reaches out, or actually start when they realize they have a problem, right?
Yep.
From the moment they realize they have a problem to when they go and start doing their research and when they finally reach out to one or more law firms and then actually get connected with someone and, at the end of the day, sign up as a client with whoever they choose. But, through all those different stages of the journey, it's not always like a cut and dry process, right? There are ways that law firms can connect more empathetically, even if they're using technology to do it, just to create that human connection in a way that is hard to replicate if you're just relying on people power alone, because you're getting into things like response times and how quickly someone is expecting in this year, 2025, how quickly they expect a response back. So anyway, a lot of my job these days is both around the running the marketing division, but also on the education side with these events and other media, trying to create something that is useful, not just as an intaker customer, but as someone who is involved in any capacity in the legal industry, understanding how to take the intake function at a law firm and turn it into something that is just part of their DNA, right? But gives clients what they need in terms of that connection.
Yeah, and so what I really want to, a couple of things I want to unpack today based on what you just said. That's and I know you're doing a lot, and I know your clients appreciate that, and I certainly appreciate the startup effort that you went through at Intaker. So what I want to talk about, and I want to frame conversation a certain way. So one of the things that I notice when I'm traveling and I'm hearing speakers talk, particularly main stage stuff, is we talk to the group. Sometimes we mention your CFO, your COO, and the reality is, if you look at the bell curve, the number of law firms in the country with a CFO or a COO or a CEO is not very high, right? The average law firm, I'm curious to hear your customer take. So what I try to do is speak to the middle, right? Yes, we have customers that have, 100, 200, 300 employees. The vast majority of our customers have 5, right? And that's the sweet spot for the average, particularly PI law firm. So I want to make sure that we're speaking to that listening. And with that in mind, what do you see as like some of the most common challenges or missed opportunities in the intake process in your typical law firm?
Thank you, Tim. I would say so many firms focus on marketing, focus on getting their name out there, focus on getting the phone to ring, and oftentimes that doesn't translate into the results that they're expecting. And what I've seen is for firms, actually, regardless of size, it happens for both big firms and small firms, but especially for small firms that don't have the kind of margins of error that big firms can afford. There's a hyper focus on marketing without as clear of a focus on what happens next, what happens after, that phone call comes in, or that web chat or Google local service ad lead, wherever it is. These days, firms are no longer just dealing with one channel for their intake. Yes, phone calls are still the bulk of leads for a lot of firms, but I've also spoken to firms who that's no longer the case. Phone calls might be less than half of their overall leads because they're doing things like social media. They're doing things like, having a like intake on their website through, we'll talk a little bit about the tools that we offer that, help streamline the intake process from that first moment to really to sign retainer. But what I've seen is that firms will focus so much on just getting people in the door that they don't really design the experience of what happens next. And I'd say that for firms, many of them have figured out like the fix your phone issue, that if someone calls, making sure that they're not put on hold, that they are, someone answers that has empathy and that they're able to connect them with the right person quickly. And that's great for leads that come in on the phone. But one of the biggest gaps that I see for law firms is that those other channels like chat, like text messages, SMS, like
Yeah.
social media, they are treated as like an afterthought. They don't have the same systems in place. And I contrast that with the firms who are crushing it today, who have this omni-channel system where no matter, where the leads are coming from, whether that's a text message or a phone call or just a form fill on the website or a chat, etc., or something on Instagram or Facebook or even WhatsApp, I know I just threw a lot out, but my point is that the firms who have an intake process that is more uniform, that is more designed from start to finish across these different channels, those are the firms that are taking that marketing money that they're spending and seeing the kind of results that a lot of firms would expect but are not seeing. So that's kind of the first thing that I have noticed after doing this now for almost 6 years. That still is one of the biggest gaps that I see law firms struggle with.
It reminds me of, so 2 startups ago, I partnered with a guy who had come out of the auto. He did digital marketing and CRM, early generation for car dealerships. This was right around the true rise of the internet. So 1997, 1998. And the biggest challenge they were having was the guys who were on the dealership floor, car salesmen, right, were like, this is a freaking internet lead. And they didn't want to call it, right? Because they're like, in their brain, they predetermined this lead doesn't have value. So they literally started a second division called Serve Thy Customer. And they just trained and trained and trained on belief that if you treat that lead, right, with the same dignity and respect and optimism, and you don't prejudge, you're going to get a much better outcome. And so what's interesting is now to see this full circle. Right now, there's these new channels related to the internet that are still being kind of, guy just sent me a chat. I don't know if, it's like, well, if you have that attitude going into it, what's the likelihood that you're going to succeed, right? If you're not treating it with the same amount of respect. So your point is well taken, right? And so the takeaway is there's so much money being spent on marketing, and the hyper focus is on one or two lead channels that probably produce at the highest conversion rate, but then all these other lead channels that are driving opportunity just not being treated the same way. So the first takeaway is treat all those leads the same way.
Tim,
And then
before you move on, sorry, I want to dig into what you just said, because in that car dealership, the issue that it sounds like some of the team was having was that it cannot be as clear cut sometimes when you're dealing with a web lead. If, are they real? Are they legit? Are they going to buy? Can we even help them? Versus on a phone call, you can kind of clear the air, pretty quickly and understand is this the right lead or not. And so it's a real pain point for any business when they have to do, what feels like 10 times the amount of work between, if someone's not on the phone than just having like a conversation back and forth. Doing all that manually is a pain point. And I bring that up because I empathize with law firms who only have a small team, who, they are looking to, to grow, to, invest in new channels. But the thing is, if you can use technology, kind of similar to what Faster Outcomes is doing, if you can use technology to just fast track the process of qualification, so that in under a minute, if someone, worth talking to or not, and it's not even you or your team who has to do the qualification, right? That part is handled by automation, by AI, by technology, with the goal of connecting that qualified lead with the person on the other side of the company sooner, right? That's kind of the big breakthrough that I think when businesses start to see that they don't have to do all this, with just human power, but still deliver that same sense of empathy, of warmth, of connection, and really getting someone to the right person faster. That's kind of been the big shift, the psychological shift for a lot of people. When they see that, they say, oh, now I get it. Now I see why, treating these intakes on these other channels is just as important. It doesn't have to be 10 times the work. It'd actually be less work, less time, because you're only talking on the phone with people you can help. Now you've cut out the people who might be tire kickers. You've already pre-screened them out before the phone call. So I just wanted to point that out because I know it is a real concern that a lot of law firms have even today. But I cut you off before, so I'm sorry.
No, you're dead on. And this is the whole shooting match for most law firms, right? It's not that getting the phone to ring, it's what happened when the phone rings, or when someone sends you a note on Facebook or Instagram or wherever, right? Even ChatGPT is generating leads now, and which I think is pretty cool. So the question, so some of the challenges that I think of in just general conversion is how your technology so not only impacts, how do you make the process easier? And there's a few things that I'd like you to speak to. One is getting to the lead right away. Let's say they don't answer the phone, right? Because not every law firm can be, if you only have one person on the phone and they're on the phone, right? So missed calls or missed opportunities. And then I assume there's some lag time for many clients between the first time they reach out and when they pull the trigger and sign a engagement letter, right? So how are you helping in that? And then that person who had every intention of getting a lawyer, and then life happened a little bit, but they're still doing their medical programs and stuff. How do you keep that person in the pipeline and in their brain activated?
Very good questions. And the way I'm going to try to answer this, I'm going to try to keep this part short, but it relates to this model of how we think about intake at Intaker. And it, we call it the client intake lifecycle. It starts with a conversion, someone raising their hand saying, I need help, whether that's a phone call, chat, whatever. That conversion point moves to the evaluation, which is where we can tell, is this person going to be a potential client? Are they wasting our time? Which is it? That moves to connection, which is actually what you're talking about when the person who reaches out and a representative from the law firm, hopefully the right person with the right information, can connect, right? So, and after that comes actually the closing, the signing up as a client. But your questions deal with those first 3 points. The conversion, a big part of that is speed to lead, meaning if someone calls you on the phone and now they have to be on hold, they're waiting, they never get through to anyone, it's easy to understand. They're probably going to hang up and call someone else who can help them right away, right? Especially if there's not loyalty or trust or it's not a referral. Same thing happens on web chat, for example, or Google local service ads if you're doing messages there. But when someone first reaches out, the time to get a response, and really a meaningful response to their inquiry to what they need help with, that is so important. And a lot of law firms might not know that if someone reaches out a web lead, it could take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes for that conversation to get just the basic information to decide, is this, worth escalating to a phone call? So that conversion point, if we can go ahead and condense that so it's under a minute, someone can reach out, share not just their contact information, but the basic stuff that the firm needs to know to determine if they can help them, right? The challenge is it's going to be different. We're getting into now, that initial conversation, getting a quick response, and at the same time, being able to get a sense of what's their story, what's their situation. If it's a personal injury matter, is it in the right state? Is it in the right jurisdiction? Were they actually the one at fault or not? A lot of these questions can be gathered just like you would on an intake call. You could get this information quickly through, chat. I talk about chat. It's where we started. It's our flagship product. A lot of people who know Intaker know us for website chat. Since then we've expanded to all these other channels. But the point that I want to make is that speed to lead, getting an immediate response, and being able to follow up with care, with empathy, and asking the questions that determine, is this a good case? Is this not a good case? And then the reason we do that is because when we can get that information quickly, that determines how we move forward, what the next step looks like. Because with Intaker, if a lead comes through, let's say, whether that's a local service ad or a web chat, and they answer questions the right way, which means different things for different firms. This is one of the really interesting parts that AI has been so useful, because now you can basically train an agent. We'll talk about agentic AI in a minute, but at Intaker to vet these leads. They come in, they answer a few questions. Are they qualified? Do we move them down the road to immediately be warm transferred to someone at the firm? Do we even route them directly to the attorney and not the basic intake floor if it's a serious matter? Or, are they not qualified? Do we let them down gently, give them maybe a text message, maybe an email, maybe other resources so that they, even if they don't have a case, something that can help them without clogging up the phones or the team's time or calendars at the firm. So those are, I'm giving just like snippets of, how we're using technology to first capture leads, qualify them. And the other thing that you mentioned is the follow-up. Right? Because it could be, and I'm sure a lot of people listening have experienced this, where you see a lead come in, maybe it's through a form or chat or something, and it looks good, you call them right away and they don't pick up. It's silence. Yeah. And then you can't get through. You can't, you could spend, hours, you could spend a few days, whatever it is, following up. And they might think that, just because they ghosted, they found someone else. And sometimes yes, but sometimes no. And one of the things that this year has been big for us for the reason of, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but the follow-up, I'll just say, has been such a pain point for law firms because they're getting leads. Even a lead came in 2 weeks ago and they treat it like it's, a lost opportunity. But sometimes people get busy, they get a little bit overwhelmed or anxious reaching out to a law firm. Yep. And just because they didn't take your call right away doesn't mean they don't still have a problem. So having these tools, and I'll probably just explain agentic AI here in a moment, but these agentic AI tools that can handle the follow-up for you, so that if there's a lead that comes in that's qualified, that there was no connection, and now they're just like a unresponsive lead, having AI that can actually follow up, send that text message, either get them booked on your calendar or get them to agree to a phone call and be able to actually make that warm transfer. So at the law firm, they just know that, hey, this lead opted in to a phone call, and that phone just rings automatically when that person says, yes, I'm ready to speak. They don't have to be checking their email or doing anything that gets them out of their workflow. They can just pick up the phone, and the lead who came in 2 weeks ago that got those nudges and touch points from AI system, now they're on the phone, they can have that conversation. And it's really a way for firms to turn what could have been missed opportunities into actual new clients and cases. And so we can dig further into that if you want, but that's some of the really exciting stuff that we've been coming out with this year.
I think that's important. And again, I always make the distinction between, so we work with firms, and I have some friends who own industrial law firms. They're doing north of 50 million in settlements a year. And it's baked into their collective DNA that you need to get a hold of this person. If that means you got to call them once, twice, email 5 times, they're in a queue and they just keep calling. But what I would guess, and although I haven't had a million conversations, your average, you got 3 lawyers in the firm, you've got 2 paralegals and somebody on the phone. Typically there's not a collective sales mindset, right? It's like, well, they'll call them once and then their ego kicks in and they're like, well, I don't want to come across as pushy, right? So you've got a tool, a strategy that can alleviate some of that, because that's the natural feeling. I'm bugging this person, or they don't really want to talk to me anyways, when in reality, that's not what's going on, man. The guy, like, she's at a soccer game, buddy. Just call her later. So how are you dealing with that outbound volume that needs to happen in follow-up, right? I mean, that to me would seem like the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, what you said, I know an earlier version of me can relate to. I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that. You feel like you're being a pest sometimes when all you're doing is following up with someone who already raised their hand, right? They raise their hand saying, I need help. Maybe you don't know exactly the whole story yet, but you know that they're in the market. And if you eventually get through to them and they say, don't talk to me, don't contact me, that's a different story. But for someone to assume that just because they're not getting through, that means that, they don't want our help anymore. I mean, that is, like you said, there's a whole ethos of sales that is, helped me understand that, just because someone appears to be uninterested, don't take that as, we can't help them. Because oftentimes that's how, some of the best relationships with clients begin, is through those moments. And so what you mentioned about like how can this technology help overcome that, maybe those blocks of mindset when it comes to the team doing the follow-up, reaching out. It's a great point. And I think one of the ways is understanding how clients communicate today, which is if you're calling someone today, tomorrow, the next day, and they're not picking up, it could be that they are someone who replies much faster to a text message than a phone call. Just saying, just as an example. And so one thing is knowing your potential client, knowing your avatar, and what are they like? Are they, of the age where, they're late millennial or younger or even a little bit older, and they just don't pick up the phone as much as someone who is, a little bit older than that demographic. Are they someone who appreciates, getting followed up with on channel like SMS, text, or something else if it is coming in through social media, especially tools like WhatsApp. If there's anyone dealing with communities outside the US, immigrant communities, populations, whether you're doing personal injury or another type of law, I can tell you, since we've had this tool out for a few months now, seeing how WhatsApp leads convert, different than SMS or web chat or phone calls, because there's just, these communities use tools like WhatsApp every day, right? And so if you kind of know already the channel that someone comes in on, and you're able to speak to them, if they come through a web chat and you try calling, maybe try texting instead. And maybe it shouldn't be you or your team doing it. If you can have an agent, one of these AI agents who can handle that follow-up for you, and you can decide if you want that follow-up to last a day, a week, a month, whatever it is, because I know it's different. If you look at estate planning and personal injury, different practice areas have different needs for follow-up, right? So being able to use a system that you can go ahead and just tell it, hey, chase this lead down, spend 7 days on this, and if it comes back empty, we'll mark it as lost. Maybe that's the right approach for some firms, but you can really customize it how you want your AI agent, which we'll probably define in a moment. You can really customize what that means for your firm.
At Faster Outcomes, when we talk about agentic, for example, we build demands and Medcrons. Beautiful, right? People can actually do that in our platform without a human in the middle. The agent, the AI agent, can create a demand letter from the information uploaded. So we refer to that as an agentic demand, right? Using the same language. So I'm curious, in your case, we're talking about agentic AI in a different way. So explain what that means and why that's so important to our listeners.
Cool, thank you. And what I would say to that, both what we're doing and what you described fit the bill. I've heard the definition of agentic AI as this: the difference between AI and agentic AI. AI, as we know it, can appear to think and reason. I say appear to think because I, like to be careful with how I describe this technology, right? But it can appear to think and reason, but it cannot take action. The difference between regular like chat GPT, you use a search, or you use like the chat window, you put a response in, you get a response out. It really depends on what you put in. You could get an amazing response out depending on the context that you feed it, or you could get something generic, right? The difference though between AI and agentic is agentic AI can take action. It can appear to think, respond, and take action. That action could be like what you said. It could generate a demand letter and send it over. Or in our case, it could be something as simple as sending a text message with the right information at the right time to follow up, or even making a warm transfer phone call when someone says, yeah, I'm ready to speak. Or it could be creating an appointment on your calendar and making sure that it fits both you and the prospect's time needs. So these are a few of the use cases that on the intake side here at Intaker, the agents that we're doing, the meaningful actions that they're taking are really about connecting people, both on the phone, on the calendar for scheduled consultations, and making sure that the right person at the firm is in touch with the client who's looking for help as fast as possible, because speed is still the number one thing when law firms are dealing with leads. If you get a lead, you say all the right things, but then you don't connect them with the right person quickly, then that's oftentimes a lost opportunity because people just don't have the patience. So that's really where the agentic side on our end is making a difference for firms.
And for the benefit of our listeners, is this referring to using an actual avatar? So there's a face there that represents the agent, or is this a chat agent?
Yeah, no, thank you for pointing that out. At this moment, we're recording this December 2025. The agents that we're talking about at Intaker are essentially text-based. So that might mean,
Okay.
you're getting any written communication that could come from someone at your firm,
Yep.
can now essentially come from an agent. Where we're focused on are channels where leads are coming in. So those leads are local service ads for messages, obviously for like web chat, but also the social media that I mentioned. The other side of it is for the outbound, the follow-ups, right? On
Yep.
that end, we are investing a lot into the SMS, any text-based lead, because if you get a phone number, even if they can't talk, they're gonna see your text.
Right.
The open rates for text messages, I believe, are over 98% compared to email, which are, less than 30% blended. So that's kind
Yep.
of where we've been focusing in terms of channels. And what can I say? We've seen the results. We've been doing this now, between web chat and these other channels, more than 7 years as a company.
Yep.
But to see where the technology has gone in the past 2 or 3 years, and to see the adoption, right? Because we can see when law firms are using these tools, that their clients, their potential clients who are reaching out, we can see how they respond. And it is really just kind of a relief when you spend so much time
Yep.
building and selling the
Yep.
system to see it actually work at a large scale. So I'm excited. It's a big year for us. It's been a big year, and next year is going to be even bigger.
I, Listen, you're preaching the choir. I'm super grateful and happy that you could hang out with us. And it'll be interesting to see, there's so much happening so fast in artificial intelligence, and there's so many great companies doing it. Faster Outcomes is one, Intaker is another. I think you guys are doing incredible work. And for the average lawyer, I always tell people, so across 3 industries, we've used the same 3 words. It's a little different for legal. Every business has to do 3 things really well. They have to find, meaning increase the quantity and quality of traffic to your website and phone. That's your first job. You got to find. We all need to find. Second thing we all need to do is improve the conversion rate of that traffic. And the third thing we need to do is provide world-class service so that we can get referrals and continue to build the database. So you got to find, sell, and keep, right? And what you nailed, and the big takeaway here is these find and sell are on, or convert are on a continuum. They're not separate. Like you can't talk about client acquisition in terms of marketing without talking about intake. If you're doing that, that little gap on the piece of paper that you're typing is the freaking Grand Canyon in terms of, you know, the hole that you're missing if you're not dealing with it. Find, sell, keep, find, sell, keep, find, sell, keep. And I think a lot of law firms are catching on, and certainly they're becoming more comfortable with the concept of AI. And intake, the reason I asked the question about, a human look and feel, there's still 2 sides of the coin. People are like, I would love that. I don't have to worry about it, right? And then there's other people like, no one's going to talk to, and they're like, yeah, definitely going to talk to someone. And even if the person said, I'm an agent on behalf of Rob Levine, how can I help you today? Right? Oh, I got in a car crash. Oh my gosh. Right? Like the stuff that what I envision we'll see by the end of next year will be just really cool. And it's a good time and good for you. Next, what do you have for final thoughts?
I just want to touch on one of the last things you said about, this new world that we're living in where AI avatars are becoming pretty common, and, there is a divide right now about, where is the future going? And what I can tell you is this: we know that we're going to be living in a world pretty soon where you're going to pick up the phone and you may not be able to tell, are you talking to a human or are you talking to a machine, right?
Right.
We're not there yet. This is something that we've been, talking about and exploring for,
Sure,
at
yeah.
this point, a few years, waiting for, this technology to really pop. And, while I don't think it's there today, December 2025, if we fast forward 12 months, if we fast forward even 6 months, I don't know. You look at a company like 11 Labs and what they're doing with, voice cloning and being able to nail like the littlest inflections when someone speaks. I would not close the door and say, a voice-driven AI intake for law firms. I think the day is going to come when that's a very big concern for everyone because it's going to disrupt the industry in ways we really can't even imagine just yet. But until that point, there's still so many low-hanging fruit for firms out there who want to say, hey, how can I go ahead and take AI and apply it to my intake process, where it's ultimately supposed to be more hands-off. It's not supposed to be more time doing troubleshooting and, checking leads. And I would say, for firms who want to, see what that process is like today, I would invite them to go just check out the website at intaker.com, and there you can learn more and reach out and do all that. In terms of what's next for us, we have more and more of these agents coming out. We just announced a few months ago some new agents for WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. We've got more coming on the way because the omni-channel intake is, I think, the future for any firm. I'll leave with one last thing because I just watched Mark Benioff give a talk on how AI is impacting business. Mark Benioff is the founder of Salesforce, for those who don't know.
Okay.
And he's talking about how AI is impacting. And one of the things he said is that in the next few years, you're going to see small businesses start looking a lot more like large businesses. And in the quality of customer service, customer care, all of those touch points that right now are when someone needs help, whether that's as a new client, as an existing client, these are all opportunities to either make a great impression or lose the opportunity completely. And so giving small law firms and small companies access to the same enterprise grade AI tools that big companies like Salesforce use, that's really where we have found our niche in legal tech, is trying to bridge that divide and be that conduit for small law firms to use tools that a few years ago you never would have imagined would penetrate the small law firm side. But we've been doing it, and we're going to keep doing it. So
Doing it well. And I will say this, that I really do appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with folks like yourself. And I think what we try to do with lawyers is we try to remind them the main reason for our technology is to keep the client in the center, right? To provide better technology, and not the client, the law firm, but the actual client, the injured, the whatever the case is, right? And I try to take that approach with the law firms that we work with, right? To try to bring people like yourself on. And if there's something you do that I do, it's all okay. If something I do that someone else does, it's all okay. We're all just trying to keep the lawyer in the middle and equip them and empower them with as many good ideas and tools as we possibly can, because they win, we win, everybody wins. And so great information today. I know our audience is going to love it. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We want to thank Joe for taking time out of his busy schedule. I know he's got a lot to do. As always, like I said, if today was your first episode, you caught a good one. If you've been following with us for a while, we appreciate your support, and we ask that you continue to like and share the podcast, and we'll see you next week.
appreciate you, Tim.